Hello everybody and welcome to YouTube Model Builders. Tonight we got the Arduino workshop live with Chris of MRL Trains. Want to say go to YouTubeModelBuilders.com. There you can check the schedules for all the shows, the Tuesday and Wednesday shows. Those are at 8 o'clock Central, 9 o'clock Eastern time. The Thursday and the Saturday once a month live show is 9 o'clock Central, 10 o'clock Eastern time. Sorry about that. Getting another message here. But anyway, be sure to go check schedules, and also be sure to click on the eMag and sign up for a notification for when it comes out. You'll be notified. That's a PDF file. You can download it, read it on various devices. JD and his team do a great job on that. So be sure to sign up so you get notified and get your copy of the eMag. And I think right now I will turn this over to Chris. He's got a good show tonight, one everybody's been kind of waiting on for a little while. So Chris, it's going to be all yours now.
All right, thanks Johnny. Welcome back everybody. I see Dave finally made it. We're having a little problem getting the link out. I've sent it out numerous times and even Dave wasn't getting it. I was calling him on the phone. So the normal panel members and Steve, I know I had invited you. Check your Gmail account or your email accounts and look in your spam folder just in case it ended up there. But if you know the link to get into the room, it's the usual link. Like to get the panel members back in for building it. Ken, Dwight, Lloyd, Andy. And I had a special guest, Steve Spence, I wanted to have on tonight. So Steve, if you're out there, send me an email. I'll try and send it back to you. Otherwise, for Dave, if you end up getting that email, if you could forward that to him, appreciate it. Anyways, let's get on with the show. And I apologize if you guys don't have the link to get in here. We'll work on that for next time, see what went wrong. But tonight we're going to build the long-awaited speedometer.
Ken's got a comment up here. He didn't get all the parts, so he wasn't going to get in tonight.
Okay, so Ken, if you got the email, just give us a thumbs up and maybe forward it to everyone else that was on the email, just so I know it actually went out. They sent it out twice, and it was having some difficulties with other things, so it wouldn't surprise me if it wasn't working for some reason. But anyways, the speedometer we're going to build tonight, we could jump right in and build a fancy one right away, but I want to start from the basics and just keep building on it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you the one that I built. It actually has two displays on it right now. It's got an LCD display, which is this one here. We did some sketches with that a while back. And I also have the LED display, which is where we're going to start. Because what I did is I found the website Arduinotronics, which is a blog site of Steve Spence, and I found his sketch, and that's what I decided to start working with after looking at other speedometer sketches and what it took to make them. I figured this one has the best possibility for building blocks. So we're going to start very simple and then just keep adding to the point where we get to this with the LCD display. So this looks a little bit complicated, but I added a lot to it. We're going to start very basic and work in building blocks, slowly adding those other pieces, and I'll show you why as we go along. But I think it'll be a lot of fun and a lot of good learning rather than just jumping in and building something and not learning a lot along the way. So Johnny, am I showing full screen right now? All righty. Okay. Okay, thank you, Ken, for sending out that email. I'm going to go ahead and start sharing my screen and show you where we're going to start with. Actually, I'm just going to go ahead and rip this all apart right in front of your eyes. And we're going to start over from the beginning. But I just kind of wanted to show you where we were going to end up. So I'm just going to rip this apart like a madman. That's the fun part about this. You can just put something together and then you tear it all apart, and in no time you put it back together again. So what I'm down to now is actually extras that I added. That's just your standard LEDs and resistors that you need to use an LED without burning it out. So just going to pull those out and set it aside. So all we really need to start with is the breadboard, your Arduino, and then, all right, where did I set those? There they are. They got buried under the mess as I was making it. So if you looked at the post I put out there a good month ago, I had you order these TCRT 5000s. They're a resistor infrared LED and receiver pair. So what it is the blue one, if it kind of looks blue, that's an infrared LED. It just emits infrared light. And the black one next to it is the receiver. And as soon as something goes in front of it that'll reflect the infrared back, the receiver picks it up and will trigger something with your Arduino. So we actually need 2 of those. So if you have 2 of those, go ahead and get them out right away. And we'll just go ahead and plug them into the breadboard to start with. So what I found out works best, if you notice there's 2 little notches on one end of the LED by the infrared LED, the corners are notched, and on the other side they're square. Let's see if I can get that somewhere where you can see it decent. Take those notches, tell you how to orient this, and I'll be bringing up a diagram in a few minutes that shows you a little more about that. But what I found works best is if you spread the legs apart a little bit on this and way out at one end, point it so that the blue LED and the notches are facing that way. And what you want to do is straddle the center divider on here so that 2 of your pins are on one side and 2 are on the other. Similar to this. As soon as I get it plugged in, I'll try and get it closer to the camera so you can see. Do you notice I have the side with the notches pointing that way? And I have the legs on each side of the divide. And then over here, I just have it in the first row and the third row. So you'll end up with 2 legs, one from the blue and one from the black on this side, and 2 legs on this side, one from the blue and one from the black. Then just go ahead and do that on the opposite end. Have it pointing in the same way. You'll notice the blue one is on this side, same as over here, or the notches. So that's going to be our 2 receivers. One to trigger starting the counting and one to trigger finishing the counting that it'll need to do for the speedometer.
All right, I'm going to interrupt for a second here. New Haven Rails said, would I be able to have the list sent to me? Also, would I be able to watch this again so I could build it? Yes, New Haven Rails. This is a recorded show. You can go to YouTube Mile Builders, and on YouTube we have a playlist. You'll find it under the Wednesday night, I believe it is, for the Arduino workshop. So you'll have the full recording there. You can watch it again. Also check the YouTube page or the G Plus YouTube Mile Builders. We did put the full list there, and you may have to scroll down a little bit, but you'll be able to find it on the parts list, so you can get all the parts ordered. Okay, can you still see my screen, Johnny? Am I still here? Yeah.
Okay, because I'm getting a message on mine that says, "Oops, you're not connected to the internet," and yet
No,
I'm hearing
that's Andy.
you just fine.
Yeah, that's
Oh, that's
Andy.
Andy. Okay.
Yeah, we get that a lot here lately from Andy.
Okay. So here's a diagram of that LED receiver that we just did. You notice this big outline in dashed lines, and then the notched corners. So that, and if you look right in the center, there's a little blue LED and a little black LED. So they have a picture of the actual part, and then they have a big diagram of it drawn around it. So what this shows is the 4 legs. If you notice on the right side, both of those legs go to a ground, and on the left side there's a resistor on one pin, a resistor on the other pin, and they both go to VCC, which is voltage, 5 volts. I have that listed right down here. I also have listed what those 2 resistors are, and we'll get to that in a second. And then there's the one that says out is the pin that actually goes to the Arduino. So basically you have power and a resistor on the left, ground on the right, and then off of this leg right here we have the signal that goes to the Arduino. So from this point we'll go ahead and load a sketch that I have pre-made, but before I do that I'm going to type something real big here.
Chris, if you notice at the bottom of your screen, you got an appear screen sharing box there. It says to the far right, hide. You can click that and that'll disappear.
Oh, nice. Then how do I bring it back to stop sharing?
You just click on screen share.
Oh, okay. Well, it's gone now because I'm hiding it.
Yeah.
Stupid question, but all right, so I'm going to go to my desktop. What I did was I actually created a Dropbox to put all the sketch for, and I better double check, make sure I actually shared that. I was going to do that, but with the technical difficulties, that may not have happened. So then I'll put a link to that Dropbox folder. All right, so what I have is, yeah, I don't think I'm going to get that link. Let me stop sharing for a second and get that fixed for you. I apologize for this delay. Yeah. I got to get back to my, there it is. All right, so give me 30 seconds. I don't know, Johnny, if you want to check if there's any panels, or if anybody wants to, Dave, you have anything you want to share from any projects you've done since we did this. I apologize for the delay again, but Andy's having technical difficulties too, I take it.
No, it seems to be okay. Seems to be.
Okay. Yeah.
Just a quick reminder while Chris is doing that. We do record these shows.
Let me try over here.
They are archived on the YouTube channel for YouTube model builders. We do have playlists, make it easier to find the shows. So usually sometime during Wednesday night, once YouTube is done with this checking the show, the recording for copyright and all that good stuff they do, then I transfer it over to the playlist. But for New Haven, again, if you go down to the well, let me just do this, and do a screen share, see if I can't find it real quick for you there. New Haven. Y'all let me know if you see my screen share.
Not yet.
There you go.
Oh, I see it. I see it.
Let's see here. Where'd you post that at anyway? Did you post it on the front page or in the Arduino?
What was that? You talking to me?
Yeah.
I haven't posted it. I'm just waiting for this thing into.
No, I'm talking about the parts list.
Oh yeah, that was on the Arduino Raspberry Pi page.
Yeah. Okay.
If you want to show them where that is, that'd be a good idea for those that are just coming in for the first time. All right. Hey, if anything, now. Apparently this streaming is working, but at the expense of some of the other things, which is better because in the past computer was the stream and it paid the price for everything else.
Yeah, I'm losing your audio tonight. Alright, New Haven, if you go to the G Plus YouTube Model Builders site, you'll scroll down on the left over here. We have a whole bunch of tabs. You'll see Arduino, Raspberry Pi, and other control systems. Click on that. And then you'll see a second one down, I guess. At least it is on mine. You'll see Chris Heili. Update Monday, August the 14th. That's the parts list for the speedometer. I just opened it up, so you'll see there's a list of parts right here. So you can go out and order those. I don't think he put on here, I don't see it real quick. But anyway, you might check out some of the places like Banggood. That's B-A-N-G-G-O-O-D, I believe it is, Dave.
Yep, that's right.
They usually have good prices and delivery is pretty quick.
And AliExpress is another good one.
All right, let me try to see if it works. I'm gonna paste a link in here. Better close the tab because it's definitely slowing us down.
Alright, I'm going back to a muted mic, let you have the show.
All right, I'm gonna send this to Andy and see if he can post it. Andy, you have Gmail handy?
Yes, sir. Yeah, I'll take care of it. Send it to my email.
All right. I'll test it first, and if it works, then post it. It's linked to a shared Dropbox where I have all the sketches for tonight. Hopefully you'll get it. I'm having problems with my email going out for some reason. Of course, it has to be on show night and no other time. There you go. And the good part is you can always come back and fast forward and watch later, but we still have you watch live. We got everything ready for a change, and then of course it doesn't want to cooperate. So, and Steve Spence, if you're out there, I'd love to jump in here. I sent you the link, so. Oh, okay. I just wanted to make sure that okay, but as soon as I get back to screen sharing, or if you want to do that in the meantime, we have them for anybody who's building that wants to jump on the panel tonight. Okay, Andy, I just sent you the email. See if you get a link to a Dropbox, test it out, see if you can access it.
Yeah, check it out now. Yep, I got it. I'll paste the link for the community or for the chat.
Okay. Very good. Thank you. Now we can get back to business here. So I'm going to go back to screen sharing as soon as I get. We can get this thing rolling. Okay. So the first thing you want to do is open up your Arduino IDE, and then there's Ann posting a link in the share area. Post it right here and make it real big. I know it won't be a real easy one, but if you're watching this video later on, not watching it live, you can write down the link, and the share Dropbox will always be open, and I'll always leave the sketches there. So that's the link right there, and I'm just going to leave it up for a little bit. And if you're watching the video, go ahead and just pause the video, write that down, and then once you get there, save the link to your favorites so that you can always go back to it in a hurry. I was hoping to, be clean and give me the name of my folders, but it gave me a bunch of code instead. It was unfortunate. Hopefully I can do something to change that for future show, but I don't know if I can. Yeah, I can close that one. There we go. Let me see what I can bother to close here. All right. So one more time, here's that link, and I'm just going to move it over. Oh, that wasn't funny. Okay, perfect. Yeah, this is just for the people watching on YouTube later on. They don't get to see the chat, so. All right, so let's get going. In that Dropbox folder, there's a sketch named speedometer-1 or _1_part_1 version 0. So that's, I'm going to highlight it just for a second, but that's what I'm talking about. So we'll go ahead and load that sketch up. The first thing you want to do is actually install these sensors and get them working. So that's the sketch that's going to do that. And if you've got that already done, I'm going to start working ahead a little and we'll give you time to catch up. But in the parts list, there's 2 resistors. And one of them was a 10K ohm resistor. And the color for that is brown, black, orange. And there's also a 100 ohm resistor. So according to this diagram, the R1 and the R2 are those 2 resistors. So if you take the 100 ohm resistor, which is R1, connect it to the left side of the blue LED where the notches are, and go ahead and put the other one into the positive rail of your LCD. I mean, your breadboard. I was looking at the LCD when I said that. Then if you take your other resistor, the R2, put it off of the left side black, where the black LED is, and connect that from that row to the positive rail again. And I'll show you how that looks right now. There we go. So if you can see, I did, when you look from the top, I got to do this backwards because this is the side with notches. There we go. And on the left side, I just jumpered from the same row as the leg over to the positive, which is the red rail on this side with the two resistors. So one off of the blue leg and one off of the thing. The diagram that I was sharing shows this. So do the same thing for the other one. This is the hardest part of the whole darn thing. So if we get this right, it's all easy from here. So I know this is just a little bit confusing, but I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing. So basically, if you count the rows, you know, at the top of here, I have row 1 and row 3 are where the legs are on this resistor, I mean on the sensor. So on the left side of the sensor, row 1 is where I have the 100 ohm resistor jumping from that row to the positive rail. Right below that, I have the other resistor, that's the 100K ohm or 10K ohm, and that's jumping from row 3 to the positive with the left leg on the back side here being row 3. So just match the row that the leg is in. On the other side, it's pretty simple. You can just go ahead and jumper a -1. Sorry about that. Jumper from the leg to the negative rail. Or if you want, you can jumper it back over to the other side, but we're going to need to get in front of these, cover them up on and off as we practice with our sensor. So we want to try and leave the center aisle clear just so we can run our fingers in here over the sensors when we're done. So once we get past this, this is our, it's all easy street from there. So if you're thinking this is a little complicated, just hang in there. It doesn't get any worse than this, and it's all going to get easier actually. So I put jumper from the right leg to negative and the right leg to negative, both of the right legs. And I'll do the same thing for my other one here. Now here's a little tip. I went out on eBay. I got sick of dealing with these really long wires, and I bought some shorter ones. Life a lot easier for when you're jumpering just from the board to the board. And I use the longer ones when I need to go out to the Arduino. So the ones that I got with my kit were all these longer ones, and it gets to be a real jumbled mess after. 4 jumper, 2 resistors. On the left, screen share, one I. Right here, we don't. What you want to know is of that leg, and this corner where the notch is the left leg. It's actually it's the range. Can you see it?
Nobody can see it, but good.
Huh? I'm sharing.
That's great. Working.
Yeah. It's actually, it was not the upper left. It's the lower left, so where the black LED is. Between the resistor and the leg somewhere in that same row, you can just stick one of your longer wires and run that over to your Arduino. For now, we don't know what row it has to go into. That's why I was having you open the sketch. So I haven't actually opened my sketch yet, so I'm going to do that right now. Open my IDE. So I spent a lot of time on the computer when I was up at the cabin over the weekend and put together some pretty nice, did some work on the sketches. I put a lot of instructions in there and everything so that when you open these sketches, it really pretty much is all you need to put this together. So File open. That's definitely taxing me a little bit, but not too bad. So, you know what? I forgot to change the verbiage on that. So actually, the sketch we want to open is part 1, version 1, and then it says serial only. Is that one in Dropbox right now? It should be. Unless I shared the wrong folder. What I didn't do was update my sheet over here after I changed the name. So I can do that right now.
We've got the part 1 version, speedometer 1, part 1, version 01, serial on.
Okay. So I'll change that right away in here. That's the one we want to open. So I labeled them in sequence. That'll make it easier that you know how to build this thing. And we'll close that. So as you notice right in here, it said a little explanation of it, including the fact of where you can go to get the sketch from Steve Spence. And maybe we'll take a minute and go back and look at that in a minute. But if you scroll down in here, you'll see sensor 1 equals 4, sensor 2 equals 5. Well, those are the pins that we're going to be connecting to. So if you go ahead and take like your top sensor and connect it to pin 4 on your Arduino, and then on the bottom one, go ahead and connect it to pin 5. So the same thing, the lower right leg, in other words, the black LED sensor on the left side, connect to pin number 5. So one of them goes to 4 and one of them goes to 5, and I'll show you what that looks like now that I have mine connected. So this is really all you need to make this work other than adding power. So we need to add 5 volts to the positive. I'm just gonna do that real quick. And add your ground from the negative rail to a ground. Basically completes this, what we need to do for now. Let's see if I can get in here and get some good shots of this for you. So we have a resistor and a resistor. Yeah, that's kind of hard to see, isn't it? If you had the resistors in already, in this lower right-hand corner, right here, where that's not a good pointer. There's 4 pointers. This orange wire is coming off and going to pin 5. So that's going to be my second sensor. My sensor has the same thing, the lower left corner going over here to pin 4. Good on my screen. Hopefully it's looking better for yours. The light isn't very good. Okay. So does everybody have this that's working along with us? Anybody out in YouTube got a minute to catch up, or Andy, or anybody that's working along with us?
I'm close.
Otherwise, we can go ahead and test it right away if you want. Okay, so all we have to do at this point, and we won't bother looking at the sketch yet, we'll just go ahead and upload it. I have to make sure I've got my correct port. There we go. Since I switched computers. Now, if you read at the top of here while we wait for this to load, it says, this speedometer uses 2 TCRT 5000 IR sensors. Oh, I'm reading the wrong sketch. I'm sorry. I'm uploading the wrong sketch. That's why I get to leaving 2 of them open. So while I wait for that and come back and do this one, this speedometer uses the 2 sensors to display scale mile per hour readout on the serial monitor. So basically you have your 2 sensors and nothing else, and we're just going to use the serial monitor to open it up. So what you do is open your serial monitor, and once you've got this loaded, you cover sensor 1 briefly, and then cover sensor 2, and it should, notice it says started. And then when I cover sensor 2, it should say finished, and if it doesn't, there's something wrong. Oh, there we go. I have my 2 mixed up. So I cover one of the sensors. Now I've got them backwards, don't I? Okay, I see what's going on here. If you get, it says seconds for your time. You notice it's saying seconds is 0.00, and it's giving me a really fast speed. That means you don't have enough resistor on there. I found that the lighting conditions are a little different. It takes a little different amount of resistance.
There's one other option.
I'm going to show you,
Chris.
take a little sidebar while I let you guys get caught up. But I'm going to click on this link from Steve's. What's that?
Chris, I found out that
Yeah.
in the code,
there,
in the
Dave?
code too, if it's backwards, if your sensor is backwards, like you're connected to the wrong leg of the receiving pin, it will actually give you the opposite, and it will feed you a really high miles per hour and a really high time. So just try switching around to the other leg of the sensor.
What it basically does, and I found this out through experimenting too, is if you're getting those really fast times, it means that something is not, when it's all connected correctly, it won't do that unless you have to increase your resistance. It just doesn't make sense, but it's true. If you have one wire that's loose or something, it'll just sit there and continue to run over and over and over again. So I have to wait for mine. This thing is still just slowly compiling. So my speedy computer isn't as speedy as it used to be. I just have too many things open, but I don't have a lot of choice. That's the only way to. You got a lot open in this computer. I'm actually going to close that and close this just so it stops loading and reopen it. Really? There we go. How's that? Okay. Boy, these gremlins are just out in full force tonight. So, so what I did is this link in here takes you to where I got the original sketch, and he's got a little note I just want to show you. He kind of built his speedometer in 4 parts, and this is like step 1 of it. But you'll notice as you scroll down here, it says update, decreasing the resistance of the IR LED resistor. We finally used 100 ohm, or increasing the resistance of the pull-up resistor. We finally used 100K, can make the circuit more sensitive, up to 15 millimeters, especially for larger scales with larger gaps. So that kind of gave me a clue. The first time I put this together using these resistors of this value, and I just want to try something. Let's turn off this overhead light to see if it makes a difference. Am I still screen sharing or not? Yeah, okay. So I found out that by what I initially did was that 10K ohm, I actually put a couple of them in a row until I got up to 30K ohm, and then it worked really well. Now this, let's see once. I'm gonna upload this sketch again just to make sure it uploads correctly, because I cut it off in the middle last time. Oh, now it's running nice and quick. No, I know what my problem was. The libraries again. That's what happens when you reload a computer. Half the stuff you need isn't on it. Yeah, see, it didn't get a library for me. That. I'm sorry. This is just not going the way I wanted it to tonight. Let me get back to stop screen sharing. Was I screen sharing or not? Oh, you there?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, because I'm just seeing the normal room without a screen
Yeah, I'm
share.
seeing your. I see your
So
camera.
what are you seeing? Ah, gotcha. Okay. Yeah, I thought I was sharing screen, but for some reason I wasn't. So I have to apologize for that. So I need to real quick here. I just need to I had to rebuild some files, and I just realized I didn't load my libraries in from. I had them ready to load, but I didn't actually load them in. So working out of the Dropbox and out of a new location from our Arduino on a different computer. Remember how we work with libraries? Well, I have to take all these libraries. I had them set in the Dropbox and just move them to my new Arduino folder. So if you ever switch computers, you're going to realize you have to do that. Oh, where we go? Here we go. Arduino. See, my library folder right now only has one library in it, so all the libraries from that we've loaded from previous shows were not available to me until I copy these back into the new library folder over here. So, hopefully this won't take me more than a few seconds, but there again, it looks like I'm not screen sharing. I thought I was. Apologize for that. Here we go. There it goes. Now it's finally working. So what I did was all these libraries right here. Can you see it now? All right. So all these libraries I just copied from my Dropbox folder to my new Arduino libraries folder. So now they're all in here. That's why I was having a failure on upload in Arduino IDE. Come on, there we go. See, when I was uploading, it didn't want to do that, so there. So now I can try and upload one more time. In fact, it already picked up that library and completed uploading successfully this time. Yay. All right. So from this point forward, no more gremlins. Let's make that a rule. We're going to get this show rolling the way it should be. I'll stop screen sharing, go back to my picture. Hopefully now this should work for me. So if I cover one and then cover the other, I have to look at my serial monitor. First cover the first one, it'll say started. When you cover the next one, if it's working correctly, it'll say finished. And in my case, it's not. So, but what happened was, going back to what I was saying before, I couldn't get it to work. I couldn't get past where it's just saying started. So I'm going to share my screen and show you that. Hey, look at that. No more gremlins. Here's my serial monitor, and there's a sketch behind it. You notice mine says started. I put my finger over one of these sensors and then over the other, but it's just sitting here saying started. So it's actually counting, waiting for a signal from the other LCD to say that it's done, and it can calculate the scales, miles per hour. But depending on the sensors and your setup, you may have to add an extra 10K resistor, 10K ohm resistor. So that's what I'm going to do right now and see if that makes a difference. Now I know when I look at my sketch that sensor 2 is connected to pin 5, sensor 1 is connected to pin 4. Well, the way the sketch works, we didn't cover this yet, but just to get ahead a little bit, this is the one-way speedometer. You have to cover sensor 1 first and then sensor 2. It doesn't work in the opposite direction. That's something we'll work on for a future show. But for now, it's a one-way speedometer. So I know that I have to go back to my sensor 1, or sensor 2, I mean, because that's the one that's not working right now. We'll stop sharing and look at my board. And I'm going to go ahead and just grab another one of the my parts box. I've got these 10K ohm resistors. What I'll do is I'll take one out. And I'm going to unplug my Arduino first, turn it off. What we want to do is put 2 of these in a row. So it goes to one resistor, then the next resistor, and then to ground. And what that does is that increases your resistance to 20K ohms instead of 10. So on my board, I'm just going to jump over to another row, like row 26. And then run that resistor to ground from, or to positive, I'm sorry, not to ground, from there. So instead of going from the IR sensor through one resistor to the positive rail, it's going through one resistor, then the other resistor, and then the positive rail. And all I have to really do now is just plug my Arduino back in. The sketch is still loaded, the sketch didn't change, so now I can do my testing. And I'm still not getting anything. I'm going to have to just revisit everything I did and make sure. Aha, there's the culprit. Get back so I can make sure I show you. I can see what I'm showing you. You see this blue wire right here? I missed by one hole. So that's what my problem actually was. I didn't actually need the 2 resistors. Now I went back and looked at it. So looking at my serial monitor. No, still not having any luck here. I'll share my screen for a second so you can see what I'm looking at. So I've got my serial monitor. I've got the whole thing started. What I'm going to do is restart my Arduino, hitting the button with the reset button, and I'm going to open the serial monitor again. So I should be able to cover one let's see, which sensor is it? That one. See, neither one of mine is actually working now. I at least was getting it to start and to run fast before, but well, you know what? Here's another one that's missing. I hit that wrong row with a couple of those. I better check this side too. Boy, the glasses are off by a row tonight. I'll have to get new glasses. Yeah, a couple of them that were off. Now look at that. See the serial monitor? Start, finish, bang. Working like a charm. This helps if you plug them all in the right holes. So, of course, I'll, just tell you I did that on purpose so that it can show you what happens when you don't plug things in the right hole, but I'm sure none of you will believe me. First guy that believes me can send me a case of beer. How's that? No, it's just the way it goes sometimes when you're trying to do things in a hurry. You don't hit the right holes or whatever. But see, now it works perfectly. If you watch my serial monitor, I'll show you, and I'll go back in a minute and show you live what I'm doing. But started, finished. Started, so I cover it. It says started. I wait a few seconds. I cover the second one, finished. It tells me how many seconds and then what the scale miles per hour is. So before we go any further, now that we actually have this working,
all right, I got a comment here.
Okay.
Chad Maryland, he said that's what you call a CCM error, critical conductor missing.
Thank you for that. I like that. I deserve more than that tonight. So it's just been one of those. I told Johnny before the show even started, I know it's going to be a good night because it started out, I got home from work. I had to do a brake job real quick on my truck. I sat down, I got the first caliper off, and it started raining. So I had to finish the brake job, hurry up and get it done, finishing it in the rain, knowing I had to get this show going tonight. So, of course, the minute I got done doing the brake job, the rain stopped. I was just like, and I had a heck of a day at work because I was off the grid for the last 6 days, and oh man, first day back to work and then all that. So I just knew it was going to be a whale of a night, but we got her going now. So anybody out there have have theirs working?
Also, Tab said that he used a Panasonic sensor, more sensitive, but no resistors to fool with.
Well, that would be nice. If that would be good things to post if you guys, I know we're going to come up with a lot of alternative methods, and I'd love to see those documented. I mean, I took this basically off of Steve Spence's and started modifying it from there. And because it looked like a really good foundation, but I know there's a lot of different parts, like this readout that I initially bought was not the one he was using. And I found out subsequently that it's probably not one that we're going to want to use long term. So we'll work our way through all those goodies. But if you go to that Arduino/Raspberry Pi page on the Google Plus site and post those things up and share them with all of us, that would be awesome. So anyway, I'm going to show you this one more time. I got started and finished. And right now, these things don't mean a whole lot. I'll show you why, but I just wanted to go back and stop sharing for 1 second. Then we'll come back and go through the sketch. So I'm basically covering this sensor and then this sensor. And that's why it's kind of said if you leave a hole in the middle to get at it, the better the better. So this one and then this one. So basically we have a functional speedometer in the sense that we can trigger it, do the calculation, and get a reading. But you're probably asking yourself by now, well, how do I know that that's the right reading for HO scale or any of that? Well, if you read through the sketch at all a little bit ahead of time, you might have the answers to that, but I'll take you through this. As you start reading through the lines, you'll see that I put a big note on this one, and I've done that on some of the other lines. Anywhere where you see it says user setting, That's a setting that you should be changing if you need to. But this distance equals 4 inches. What that is that's the distance in inches between the two sensors. So if I take, right now I just have it set at 4, but you need to change that to whatever distance your sensors are at to actually get an HO scale reading. So I need to find myself my ruler I had handy a few minutes ago. There it is. Stop sharing for a second and I'll show you what I'm going to do. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to measure center to center between these two with my scale. And I'm getting almost 2.75 perfectly. So I'm just measuring center to center between your eyes on your photo eyes, or not photo eyes, your IR sensors. So if you had those 4 inches apart, leave it at 4. If you have it 2.75 like I do, I'll go back to the code now and we'll change that to, in my case, 2.75. But each of you should measure yours now and add that value in place of this 4. So I'm just going to put 2.75 and save my sketch. Yep. Oh, well, it needs to be decimal in the sketch. So the 2 3/4 I measured is 2.75. Once you have that set, if you look right down, the next 2 lines down, it says user setting again. I have scale equals 87.1. This is for HO scale. I also put a note I revised that Steve Spence had it at 87, which is basically correct, but 87.1 is the actual.
Hey, Chris.
You want to be perfectly correct for HO scale.
Hey, Chris, I'd like to just point out that you have that field identified as an integer, so it'll only take the 87. That's why
really?
he had 87 in there.
I gotcha. Okay. So what about the float? That can go decimal, right?
Yes, the float can go decimal.
Can I change scale to float if I wanted to?
Probably. Let me see where it's being used. And
all right. So basically, it doesn't matter that what Dave's saying. It doesn't matter. I changed it to 87.1 because it's ignoring the 0.1 right now.
Yeah, you should be able to change that to float, and it should work.
Okay.
Let me try it.
So what those are is, you know, different types of numbers or the way a computer. I'm trying to put it in very basic terms.
In computer terms, we call it a data type. So the type of data is integer as opposed to floating point.
Right.
Yep.
Floating point can have decimal, and there's other ones too that I don't know if this is capable of doing them or not, but anyways, so what I'm going to do then is let him test that, and I'll change this once we get the results later on because I want to leave these sketches in here for everybody who watches this in the future. You might find out that we ended up changing it. So once you open this sketch, if you're watching this on YouTube 2 weeks from now, and it no longer says 87.1, it might be because we took it off, or it might say float instead of INT when you open the sketch. That's because we're changing it tonight, maybe. But, yeah,
float does work correctly.
All right. So I'm going to go ahead and do that right away. And you guys might want to also type in FLOAT. You know, it's probably pretty irrelevant in the scheme of things because that 0.1, unless you're going to have these things like 4 feet apart, you probably measured less accurately than what this is going to change it, you know, from 87 to 87.1. But I'm just that, you know, I grew up in the CAD world, so and GIS and working with data, so I always like to be. If I know there's a better number, I'm going to use it, you know. So I'm going to just go ahead and hit save and re-upload this just for kicks. Make sure it works. And I'm done. Oh, I love it. So much faster. And I'm just going to test mine. That's right, I'm sharing, so you guys will get to see it right along with me. Serial monitor. Cover the first one. Started. Wait a few seconds. Cover the second one. Finished. Took 3 seconds. That's 4.46 miles per hour. So this is a much better reading than what I was doing before. I was getting much bigger numbers. It's because they really weren't correct. Now this should be pretty darn close to correct. And the neat thing is, if you want to go ahead and mount this out on your layout somewhere, the farther apart they are, it's probably the better scale mile per hour reading you may end up getting. You might want to put these 2 feet apart. You know, if that's the case, then you would change this number to 24 inches. You know, but as long as you're an HO scale, you'll never have to change this number. If you're an N scale, you'd want to change that to 144. You know, if you're in S scale, what is it, 164th or something, or 148th, or, you know, whatever scale you're in, just find out what the correct ratio is and plug that number in right here. Like if I was an N scaler right now, I would just change this to 144. I do believe that's correct. Somebody tell me if I'm wrong, but if that was N scale, that's what you do. And if it's 124th, if it's 124th scale, you just type in 24.
Yeah, N scale's 160.
160, okay.
Yeah.
Well, this is where the magic happens, you know, between this distance and the scale. As you go down into this code, you don't have to know a whole lot about the rest of this code until you get down, actually down here. This is all just the code that makes it, you know, once it's functional. But this is where the magic happens, getting these things, these 2 user settings set. They're critical if you want to have the correct scale miles per hour. You have to have correct scale and correct input. So we're already hitting our 1 hour because of all the technical difficulties. So what I'm going to do is we're going to jump right ahead into number 2, and we're going to build on this same sketch. If you go back to the Dropbox, and I'm just going to take it right off my computer, but it should be the same as what's in your Dropbox. Arduino Workshop, Part 1, Version 2, add LED display. It's super simple. It's only 4 wires. So I'm going to go ahead and load up the sketch first. And I'll stop sharing. We'll plug in the 4 wires to our LED display, and we should, just like that, be able to read it on the LED. Because you notice there's obviously the big handicap of this system as it sits right now is that you need to have Arduino IDE loaded and running, and you need to have your serial monitor up. So, you know, unless you have a computer right next to your layout, right where you want it, it's not going to do you any good as a speedometer, because you have to have your serial monitor open to read it. So, you know, the next logical step for us is to go ahead and connect the display to it so that we can have the reading on a display and move it away from the computer.
I got a comment from Tab.
Yep. Go ahead.
Tab's comment was, the closer the sensors, the more accurate the inner sensor distant measurement needs to be.
Yeah, the closer the sensors are together, the more accurately you need to calculate that. So you need to, you know, if your sensors are 2 inches apart, then you need to have 2.176 or something. You need to be fairly accurate with your actual measurement. As you get out to 2 feet, if you're off by an 1/8 inch or something, it doesn't equate to as much of a calibration.
Yeah, under 6 inches or a foot, use dial calipers.
Okay. Yeah, that's
one other.
You know, at the end of the. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Dave.
Yeah, I just like to point out though that the longer the distance is between it, the more chance there is that the engine can actually change speed between the 2 sensors.
Yeah, that's true too. That's very true.
It's kind of a sweet spot. I feel like the 6 inch to 1 foot range feels like a real sweet spot to me.
I agree, Andy.
Well, and the other thing is, if you're going to use this for speed matching, which is what I intend to do, rather than a speedometer on the layout for telling how fast your operators are running, if you're going to use it for speed matching, you want it to be much closer together, because when you're running your low end speeds like speed step 1 and 2, and you want it to be 2 miles an hour, 3 miles an hour, you got to wait a while. Even at the 4 inches, or what is my AccuTrack speedometer is at about 3 inches, I think, or maybe even pretty close to this. Yeah, I'm going to say it's about 3.5 inches. And it takes, 10 seconds sometimes at those slow speeds to traverse that distance. So if you went a foot, now you're going to be waiting like 30 seconds, 45 seconds just for it to finish making one run. Then you make an adjustment, you run it through again, you make an adjustment, so you could cut down the amount of time it takes to speed match by shortening that distance. All right, so the other thing I wanted to point out real quick was, I guess it's a matter, if the speed is just a little bit off from true speed, does it matter? Maybe. In my case, if I'm using it for speed matching, no, as long as I speed match all my locomotives using the same speedometer and they're the same distance apart, I guess if they're all off by 0.5 mile per hour versus true scale speed, I'll probably never notice. The main thing is that they all work together, at the same speed, regardless of whether it's 4 miles an hour or 5 miles an hour in scale speed, as long as they all run that same speed at a certain speed setting.
And as long as you only have one of these things,
right.
I need to build several of them, maybe one at each level, kind of as you enter the levels from each side. So when you come out onto the visible layout, you have some idea of your speed. In that case, they need to be similar. But I think what I'll do is just try to make sure that the spacing is almost, as close to identical as possible.
Yeah, that's a good idea. So I just went ahead and hit upload on this second sketch, but I never got around to it because we were just kind of sitting here shooting. But all right, so what we have is without the wires on it, this is a TM1637 LED display. When you go back to Steve Spence's, he used one from Adafruit. It had a backpack on it and everything, and it was, depending on when he bought it, and I thought it was upwards of $7, $8, $10. So I just went out on eBay and got this one for, I don't know, it was about $1.79 free shipping. I found out the hard way, it's not exactly what you want. I could see that it had the 2 little dots in between there. I was thinking I was going to be able to have a decimal place, but it turns out these don't actually function. This particular one doesn't function as a decimal. I can get the semicolon or the colon and have time, but I can't have just the lower dot or the upper dot activate to differentiate decimal place speed. So I can't go 2.5 miles an hour. It's only going to be 2, as you'll find out.
That'd be a good display for a fast clock build. I've got a really good Arduino sketch for a networked fast clock I'm playing with.
But it still amazes me how cheap and how fast you can get this stuff. I mean, I got this in like 4 days. Granted, I picked the US seller, but it was still about the same price as the China sellers, and I had it in 4 or 5 days. And heck, I bought some telephone cord ends that you crimp on to make your own, NCE system cables just a couple weeks ago. Ordered them from China, 99 cents for 30 connectors with free shipping, and I got them in 10 days. How do they make any money? I have no clue. 30 connectors, 99 cents shipped from China in 10 days. And it said air freight stamped on it, so I don't know if they make money on that. It's beyond me. But anyway, so if you look on the back of your thing, there's only 4 pins on here, and I'm just using these wires that have a female on one end and a male on the other. The other thing you could do is just go ahead and plug this right into your board like we've done before, but then it's going to get in the way of doing your sensing. So I just preferred to use these male-female wires. So, there's the one that says VCC. That's that's just 5 volts, so I can go ahead and plug that right into the power rail of my breadboard. Then of course you have the one that says ground. That's right next to it. That'll go right into the ground on your breadboard. Then you have the one that says DIO, your digital input output. If you go to the sketch, let's share the sketch real quick here. Whoops, that's not where I want to be. If you go to the sketch, once again, now we have this second sketch loaded. You can just look right in the code, basically, to figure that out. I apologize. You're not going to be able to tell in here. I've got the list right here, and I'll even make these bigger for a second so that the YouTube users later on can see them. So the clock for this sketch goes to pin 9, and I do believe that is defined in the code. Let me look one more time. I'm not looking at the right sketch, that's why. There we go. Yeah, so right here in the CLK is 9, DIO is 8. That's right in the setup code for doing this. Oh, and then the library. That was the other thing we need to load. So let's go back to hardwiring, and we'll come back to that stuff. So clock goes to pin 9. Digital input output goes to pin 8. And this is probably going to be as far as we get tonight, but by the time we get done, you're going to have, in a few minutes, we're going to have a working speedometer with a digital display. All right, so I think I left that up there long enough. Let's go back to the code. I have to add my library. I can see that. So I'm going to do that real quick. Oh, no, it's in here. Oh, that's not where I want to be, though. Libraries. Oh, I guess I do have that. Let me just try uploading again. Hopefully I don't have an error in here. It was working fine for me before. Oh yeah, done compiling. So I verified it does work. I'm just going to upload. Huh. All right, I'll have to take a look at this for a second and see what's going wrong here, but
Check your ports.
yeah, that could be, but it shouldn't be different than it was before. COM port 5. Let me just check my wire. Maybe for some reason it's.
Sometimes I have to press upload a couple times or something. A second time you can upload. Sometimes it'll fail erroneously the first time.
Just plug it back in.
Other times what I find to do is just close Arduino and reopen it.
Yeah, because if you notice over when I click the little check mark, which is to verify the code, it compiles the sketch. And it doesn't give me any errors. See, done compiling. So it's actually a physical, more than likely a physical connection error, or more, it's transferring the code. It's not a problem in the code. It's a problem transferring it. There we go. Now it's done uploading. So I unplugged it at each end and replugged it in, hit the reset on my Arduino, and everything's fine. So now I'm going to stop screen sharing and see if this thing actually works before we go any further. And it should. Hey, there we are. So now when I trip one sensor and then the other, lo and behold, now it's just going to sit here. That was 11 miles per hour. Here and say that until I do it again. So trip one sensor, trip the other sensor. Oops, upside down. 7 miles per hour. You notice we're not getting a decimal display. Trip the other 3 miles per hour. So the first thing I noticed once I got this up and running was I really have no way to verify that I actually tripped the first sensor. I tripped the second one. Okay, there it works. So as I was thinking about it, it's like, okay, this thing works really good. But how do I know if I didn't accidentally trip that one, or if I didn't trip it and I thought I did, then I go trip the second one. If it works, that's okay. If it's somewhere close to what I thought it should be, I know I'm probably right, but I really have no way of knowing that I didn't accidentally trip it when I wanted to and then trip the other one. My speed, you know what I'm saying? If it was counting for an extra 5 seconds. So the first thing we're going to do next show, the first thing I did into the program, it's really simple, you know, in between now and the next show, see that the rest of these sketches, and we're going to kind of have to wrap it up for tonight because we're at our time limit. 1 second here.
Chris, let me tell you what I did in that situation. As soon as I tripped the sensor the first time, when I start the sensor, I set 0 to the miles per hour on the display. So you could see your display change from a miles per hour to 0 as soon as you hit that first sensor.
Right. So what I literally did, you're going to see that version 3 says enhanced code. If you open version 3, and you don't have to change the hardware at all to do this. So in fact, we can do it right now just to show you, because this one doesn't even really require a hardware change. This one, I was like, yeah, the first thing I noticed was, hey, I'm not sure I ever tripped that or not. I want that for verification, and you're going to see that it does just about exactly what you said. I'm going to close some of these other ones because that might be what's causing it to slow down on me. That's version 2. I can safely, there we go. Version 3 is up. So I'm just going to hit upload right away, and it shouldn't take too long because it's fundamentally the same program. It won't have to do a ton of recompiling. But what I did in this one was just added, like Dave said, let me just wait till this uploads, and then I'll scroll through the sketch real quickly. And this is the kind of the neat part where I said it's building blocks. We started with just a serial monitor, you know, with 4 more wires, an LED display, and just some minor code change. We have an LED readout. Oh, I got an error again. Oh, looks like it's fixing something. Actually went past the error. That's interesting. So you'll notice at the top where I said it resets the speed to 0 after a set delay, and then it changes to 8888 while reading the sensor. So I did a little more than what Dave did, was just with some code changes. What I had to do is, after you trip the first sensor, then you trip the second sensor, you get your reading, it resets, it waits X amount of time, which is a user setting. I'll show you at the bottom right here, this delay. User setting, set the delay in milliseconds before it resets to 0. So basically, I set it for 5 seconds. So after you trip it, it'll display the speed for 5 seconds, then it'll reset to 0. So now you know you got your reading, and you know it's set and ready again after 5 seconds for the next reading. Then what it does, going back to the top of the loop, it'll type in this 8888 while it's reading. So if I trip the first sensor, the display reads all 8s. Then I trip the second sensor, and it gives me my speed. Then it waits 5 seconds, and it resets to 0. So that gives you confirmation in each step of the way. When it's sitting at 0, you know it's ready. If it's sitting at 8888, you know it's in between the first trip and the second trip. So that I did strictly with code. And then from there, I went and added an LED to each one of those steps. So it has a green LED when it's ready. It's got a yellow LED while it's reading, and it's got a red LED while it's on the delay cycle. So that's something we'll cover next time, or if you want to just work ahead in the next couple sketches, which are appropriately marked as version 4 is adding one LED, which would be the yellow one, I do believe. That tells you that it's reading or waiting between the two sensors. The two LEDs, I think that adds either the green one or the red one, and then the 3 LEDs adds the third LED. Then we get way ahead of the game. Part 2, I actually added an LED display, or an LCD, the liquid crystal display, because I thought, I didn't like this little 4-digit display because it doesn't have a decimal point. If your reading is like 7.89 or even 7.99 on the serial monitor, it displays 7. It doesn't round it up to 8. So you can be off by almost a full mile per hour without that decimal place reading. So
actually, Chris, it does round. There is a round statement in the calculation.
No, well, mine wasn't, unless I,
yeah,
for some reason, if I compared the serial monitor or even the LCD display later on to what my little 4-digit, 7-segment 4-digit display was doing, it wasn't rounding up. So I'm assuming you could do that with code. I'm just not that good yet. So.
Oh yeah, mine was in there when I grabbed the original code.
Okay.
It was in there.
Might have been something I deleted then along the way somewhere. So.
Yeah, probably.
What I didn't show you tonight that I wanted to was, if you're not having any luck, and I'm going to show you this because some people are going to be working on this later on. If you're not having any luck getting your LED display to work, there's a simple code in here. First of all, you need to load this library called TM1637 Master. I skipped over that part, so hopefully you guys caught that when you did your loading, but I meant to cover that tonight. So load that like you would any other library. That's the code that's required for your 4-digit display. But this sketch called Basic Example will verify that your display is working. All it does is it lights up the display and it starts counting from 0 to 999 in half-second increments. So that's all it does. It's a very simple sketch, but it proves that you correctly connected your LED display and that it's working. So that way you don't have to wonder if you did something wrong on your speedometer setup. You know, just set that up standalone by itself. It should run. And, you know, it's just the same 4 wires we connected before, and then load this sketch and it should just start counting 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, you know, every half second change, counting up till it hits 999. Let's see, anything else I wanted to cover real quick before we disappear? Actually, I wouldn't mind having another show again sooner than a month, because we got this going now, but I think a lot of this you can work on yourself. I'm going to stop sharing and just show you how to hook up your LEDs if you want to work ahead on those other sketches. All I was doing was taking the LED, you put the one leg in negative, and you put the longer leg on the breadboard side. Then you take your correct diode resistor, which will be somewhere between like 470 and 1000. They all work. I mean, that's even a 300 is what I use. A 300 ohm resistor is plenty. Anywhere from 300 to 1000 ohms is fine. And then you just, from the resistor side, you run it to the pin that's called out in your sketch. I don't think I have one of those sketches loaded. No, I don't. But all you do is look at the top of the sketch, and like right up here where it says integer sensor 1 4, sensor 2 5, it'll say like LED ready, and it'll give you a pin number, or LED delay, I think was one of the other ones I called it. But it tells you right in the sketch which pin to connect them to. So if you've worked with LEDs on your breadboard at all, it's pretty simple. It's just negative side of the LED goes to ground, positive side goes to resistor, and after the resistor it goes to the pin on your Arduino. That's called out in the sketch. So it's kind of fun and once you get it all going. It's especially when you start adding the lights to it, it kind of gets kind of neat. Like I said, it's just the one when it's green light, when it's a yellow light, it's calculating or waiting for the second sensor to be tripped, and then when it's the red light, it's giving you the display, and it's not ready to reset yet. Any questions? Anything I can help you with on what we covered tonight? I thought it was screen sharing. I guess it wasn't. I apologize for that. And I can go ahead and show you that working one more time. So trip it once. See how I went to all 8s? That means it's waiting for the second trip. The second one, it gave me my miles per hour. Trip it once, goes to all 8s. Trip it the second time, there's the reading. Wait 5 seconds, it'll go to 0. And there's the 0. That means it's ready. So that's that third sketch that we were just talking about. So potential problems, like I said, you would have would be you might need to add a little more resistor, a little bigger resistor. If you had a 20K ohm, go ahead and stick it in there. I didn't, so I used a pair of 10s. Actually, it turns out I probably wouldn't need it to, but what that actually does is increases the distance. The higher the resistance, actually increases the distance, I found out. So at 10K ohm, I got to get fairly close. We're at 30K ohm, I could be a little farther away. So like about the distance of the bottom of a boxcar or something, or the truck. So I'm actually going to install one of these between this show and the next show on a piece of test track and try it out hooked up for real. So any questions? Anyone comments from the chat? No.
No.
No? Okay. Otherwise, I think we'll close it up for tonight and pick up where we left off. Next time we'll go ahead and put in some LEDs for color display, and then work on an LCD. So if you don't have one of these, get yourself a LCD display with the backpack. And I'll go ahead and post up which one I have, so that you can just use my sketches directly. Otherwise, if you're good enough, you'll be able to figure out how to. But you can buy these without this backpack, but then there's like 16 pins here. You're gonna run a wire from just about every one of those to your Arduino. This has got an I2C backpack, so all we need is 4 wires. 1, 2, 3, 4. Two of them are power and ground. So literally 2 wires instead of the 16 to your Arduino. So I'll post that up sometime in the next week up on the Google Plus pages and under the Arduino and Raspberry Pi page. So other than that, I think thanks for watching. Sorry for the first half of the show was pathetic. I apologize for that, but hopefully the second half was a little bit better. So take it away, Johnny.
All righty. Well, say go to utmodelbuilders.com. There you can check the schedules for the Tuesday and Wednesday shows. Those shows are at 8 o'clock Central, 9 o'clock Eastern time. The Thursday show and the once a month Saturday live show are at 9 o'clock Central, 10 o'clock Eastern time. Thursday shows are every week, and the Saturday once a month show is usually the third Saturday of the month with Big Bill and Barry. Also be sure and click on the eMag and sign up for email notification So when the eMag comes out, you'll be notified and be able to download that. JD and his team do a great job on that. Also want to remind everybody that all these shows are recorded and they are on the YouTube Model Builders YouTube channel. So if you missed the show, couldn't come in at the beginning, you can go back and watch the recorded show. And anytime Chris shows a link, you'll be able to pause it and copy the link down and go to it. Alrighty, hope everybody enjoyed the show. Have a good night, and I shall see you tomorrow night on the Thursday night chat. That's going to be at 9 o'clock Central, 10 o'clock Eastern time for the Thursday night chat. So everyone have a good night. We'll see you tomorrow night.